Quinn Snyder signed with the Hawks, right? Midway through the season, they find Nate McMillan. Him and Trey Young had some clashes, but they had some good. They had a good year, and when Nate McMillan stepped in the middle of the season, they made it to the playoffs, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So Quinn Snyder, I'm gonna start this one off. So what I like about this move is that Donovan Mitchell actually reached out to Trey Young, and he told Trey Young, he was like, basically, Quinn Snyder is going to coach you hard, and you're going to want to run through a wall for him, you know. And Trey Young was like, I'm excited for this challenge, and that's what Trey Young's need. That's the type of player Trey Young is. He needs somebody that's going to challenge him. He needs somebody because Trey Young is very ball dominant. You know, he's very animated out there when it comes to, like, he talk a lot of trash, stuff like that. He got history clashing with the coach and stuff. So not saying it's Trey Young's fault, but he needs a coach that's gonna be stern and hold him accountable and get the best out of him. Because I think Trey Young hasn't even unleashed his potential yet. I still think Trey Young could get a lot much better. He could play way more efficient, and I think Quinn Snyder is going to do that for him. Quinn Snyder built up that Utah Jazz organization once he stepped in. He did a great job with that program. And you look at that team, I mean, they didn't have a lot of players that stood out, but he built a great culture around there. So I think he could do the same thing with the Hawks. The Hawks got some nice pieces. They got Trey Young. They got DeJounte Murray. They got Hunter still. They got my man Bogdanovich, right? They got players. They got Sadiq Bey that just came from Detroit. That was a great pickup. So I think that Quinn Snyder long term will be good for this team.
So I will take it from here because I don't. Joe, you guys stop taking my points, man. That was the one thing I was gonna say though about the Utah thing. He brought Utah back, like the fact that you could bring Utah back, and I think he resigned, right?
uh,
He resigned.
yeah, he
Yep, he
did.
resigned, so
Well,
he didn't get fired. I
you
mean,
know, he did a killer more at the botcha.
okay, but I mean, in their situation, they was ready to blow the team up anyway, so he kind of was like, "Let me get out of here before they get rid of me." Makes sense.
Yeah.
And with that team, like the players you named, the one person that sticks out is Donovan Mitchell, and I really want to talk about more so about Nate McMillan right quick. Is the fact that you don't want to see black coaches lose their jobs, but you kind of seen that Hawks team take a step back. Like some of those
Mm-hmm.
players started regressing as the season carried on. Because when they made that big trade over the summer, when they got Murray, you were like, okay, we got Trey Young, we got DeJounte Murray, we got John Collins, like, and they got my boy, what's my man? He played for the Rockets. What's his name?
Oh,
Clint
Clint
Capella.
Capella.
Clint Capella. I'm like, okay, so they got pieces to move around with these two because Murray was killing with the Spurs. Like, I don't even know why the Spurs did that, but the Spurs gonna be the Spurs, and I can't
Made a
say that
play in.
about them right now. There we go. But as the season started going on, you start seeing like Murray started regressing. You're like, this is not the player we seen last year. Trey Young, you started seeing some things with him. And of course, we all know about that hiccup that the two had with the shoot
Mm-hmm.
around. We talked about it on the show. You seen that, and I think that was the beginning of the end for Nate McMillan right there, where it was just like the miscommunication within the team is really showing up. You definitely did. You definitely did. I got you your props. And now with Quinn coming in, you're going to have a coach again who's going to hold everybody accountable, and that communication is now going to be better on the floor because what he did for the Utah Jazz, you seen Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, two players who probably really didn't like each other, but we would have never known that until they had their falling out, like it come out of the locker room. Outside of that, they played well together. The Utah Jazz were also competitors. They were contenders in the West. They just couldn't get over that hump sometimes, which always happens. And another thing that stands out is this is not Quinn's first time in Atlanta. He was a assistant coach for Budenhauser, so
Let's
this is
get
not
it.
his first run.
And they were
This is not his
winning.
first rodeo. Exactly. So he knows what to do. And what did Budenhauser do when he went up to Milwaukee? Just kept winning. So hey Trey,
Mm-hmm.
you gonna get this is your time now. You can shut the league up. Y'all make the playoff. Well, y'all in the playoffs, but y'all can definitely hold on to that 8 seed, possibly bump up to maybe a 6 seed, maybe. I don't want y'all to because my team personally needs to get in the playoffs and not to play in. But Hawks, I like your future.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that segment we had when we talked about Trey Young and Nate McMillan about that whole debacle that they had because I actually went and looked at that show that we did a couple of days ago. I was like, man, ain't this something? We talked about this And I pretty much at that point, I don't think I said it on the show, but at that point, I was to myself, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow later during the season he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Because Trey Young, of course, that situation, yeah, we can go back to how we felt about the situation, but I still feel the same way about the situation as I did then as I do now. I think that if he was able to go through that, then maybe there was some way. I think his coaching style just didn't fit this team. I don't think he's a bad coach. I just think his coaching style did not fit this team. His coaching style fits a team like Miami, like
Mm.
how we are the way we how we're grit, and because of our leader like Jimmy Butler, that's
Mm-hmm.
a type of environment that fits Nate McMillan. Not when you go and you got Trey Young, DeJounte Murray. That's a young team with John Collins. That's pretty much a young. It's led by a young leader, so
Mm.
it's different when it comes to that. And he's in the Jimmy Butler is not a part of this. Even though he's been here since Steph Curry pretty much took over the league and changed the way that they play. Jimmy Butler came in when it was still a mid-range game for him. When he got drafted out of Marquette last pick in the second round by the Bulls, he still came in this league when it was that time. Trey Young pretty much came in when Steph Curry was hot, and everyone compared him to Steph Curry when he was coming out of college.
Ooh, he
Everyone
was
compared him
nasty.
to that, and and he played at Oklahoma. So, and he pretty much still plays that way now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and we had a conversation about him before about the way he plays and why players ranked him so low in the East as the 12th best guard in the East, which I still think is ridiculous. Because he's nutmegging people, he talking trash, he plays the villain role, but that's just the way the league is now, and that doesn't fit a coach like Nate McMillan. So
Mm.
I never thought that he fit this situation. Yeah, they had some success when he came in the midseason, but I never thought it was a good long-term decision to
Mm-hmm.
have him as the head coach. I like Quinn Snyder a lot better because he coached a young player like him. Not exactly like him, but he coached a young player in Donovan Mitchell. And Donovan Mitchell is a really good player who's shown that he can do it even with Cleveland. Of course, he's around a better team, but you see what he's doing in Cleveland. So I think this works out for both parties because I think Nate McMillan is not done being a coach. I think he's still going to get an opportunity somewhere else, not sure where, or even if it's a head coach. Still think he's going to get an opportunity in the NBA. But it just doesn't. He just doesn't fit in Atlanta. I could see him going somewhere like San Antonio. Like if Pop leaves, I could see him going to San Antonio and taking over there, or depending on the situation in Utah, I see him going to Utah. So it all depends on the situation and what team he gets. He think he has the opportunity to go somewhere, but I just didn't think the fit was good in Atlanta.
Yeah, I think Nate McMillan, they had that success over momentum. I think they had momentum. You get a new voice and things that
Mm.
sound better. And I think
Yep.
that's what happened. They took advantage of that momentum. And Nate McMillan, I mean, I know Tomo mentioned that you don't want to see a black coach get fired. The good thing about the NBA, they do a great job at hiring black coaches. There are a lot of black coaches, a lot of black coaches that had opportunities over and over and over again. Dwayne
Yep.
Casey. I know,
Look at
so
Jacques Vaughn in Brooklyn.
yeah, Jock Vaughn. I mean, I'm looking at Dwayne Casey. I mean, I remember it was a Toronto failure, and then bounced and got Detroit job right after that, and he's still there.
Wow.
They've been terrible ever since. All
Nah, that's
right,
true.
so I think that they do a good job with that. So, but I think he'll be an assistant coach. I don't see him coaching the Spurs. I think the Spurs going to promote somebody within the organization to run that
I
organization.
think they're gonna give it to the lady. I forgot her
Yeah,
name.
Becky.
Becky. I think it's Becky something.
They could. I was
Yeah.
just using an example because of that style of the
Well,
organization.
Oh
she
yeah,
coaching the
that makes sense.
WNBA. I think. If I'm not mistaken. She might leave that job to go to, but she left. I think she coaching W. She the highest paid coach in WBA. I think.
I'm gonna double check it, but yeah, she was in the
Yeah.
rank. She was in the talks to be the Wizards' next head coach. I wish we
Oh,
would have
for
did it.
real?
Yeah, but they wanted
Yeah,
to hire West. But we'll talk about them later.
hey, right now, who's somebody right now? Let's get it. So, so